Hello and welcome to a new video. In today's video, I'm gonna show you an example of dynamic versus static play, and we will start with this position which occurred to me in one of my most recent rapid games. I had created some weakness to my opponent's king position. This double pawn on h4 and h2 is a weakness, but once I got here, I realized the weakness does not convert itself, but I must do something about it, and so I needed to find a solution here. If you want to challenge yourself, you can pause the video here and try to find the best option for black, trying to exploit the weakened white king or the weakened pawn structure. And we will dive into the solution. But first, let's talk about some general principles. And the main thing which is important here is that once we want to exploit the king, we need our pieces in a very active position, because we cannot exploit the pawn weaknesses without our pieces getting there. So my first thought, looking at this position, some moves ahead, when it was not yet on the board, was I could just stabilize on c6 and I have a very good position, because white has some weaknesses here and I should be doing fine. However, things are not so easy, and of course, once it was on the board, I realized that here maybe I don't have an advantage, because even though white has a double pawn, I have a very bad bishop and it's very hard to break open, because white will just unpin his queen now, and then maybe he will be even the one using the g-file for his attacking purposes. So all the weakness doesn't help me and I cannot really fight for an advantage here. So that is the point when dynamics come into action. The approach we saw here was purely of some static nature. So we stabilize and we want to win purely by structure, but that usually doesn't work in chess, because that's not everything which is there. There is also something like activity, attack, and some dynamic principles of the game. And often to exploit static weaknesses, we also need to have the dynamics on our side, because all the statics don't count when we are getting attacked or we just don't have the pieces into play. So when looking at this position from a dynamic point of view, you should always keep in mind two things. The first thing is consider your pawn breaks, and the second thing is consider sacrifices. So when I was considering my dynamic options here, the first thing which came to my mind was the pawn break e5. Why does this e5 come so natural? Because it really opens the diagonal for my bishop, and that's really the thing I need to get when I want to attack his king. In addition, I really put some pressure on his d4 pawn, and I might also get the active option to let his bishop run out of squares. So that were my three ideas. And once you have so many attacking ideas, it was very clear to me that I really don't need to be scared of rook takes c7 or anything similar. Also, I could just take on d4. I was not sure what exactly I would do next, but I get so much activity, and I evaluated that my chances in this dynamic encounter would be much greater than just playing for structure only with c6. So that's why I went for e5. And here the best option for white would have been something like queen c2, trying to kill my attacking chances by trading queens. I, of course, don't want to do that. And after something like queen c3, black is already a bit better, but still it's not yet crushing. White is kind of covering everything for now. The king might evacuate, and yeah, white is also not losing here. So the game is open, but black is pushing. So in the game this didn't happen, and we will have a look at what happened. My opponent played queen b1, which is not the best move, because I have bishop f5 again, but this time the queen cannot really stay active along the c-file, but instead must move again to another passive square, or he um, yeah, must move a pawn, which he did in the game, but that's not really a good solution because from a static point of view, there are more weaknesses in the position now. The bishop on f3 is also a target, and the queen is kind of offside, and black really gets the momentum, and that's the exact situation we want to get. When the king is weak, we want to have attacking potential, and we need to use it when the opportunity occurs, and not when we want to do it. We really need to be fast now, because otherwise white would reorganize the pieces, safeguard his king by playing king h1, rook g1, and so on. So we really need to be in time. So that's why I started with bishop h3. I think this is superior to checking with the queen first, because here the rook might go to g1, and so I decided to attack the rook immediately so that the rook cannot yet go to g1, and that's one option less for white, and that's quite a good thing for us. So there happened rook to d1, and now I needed to make a decision again, and this is quite an important one, that we get the queen into the game right now, because if we do something else, for example, would take here first, then white doesn't necessarily need to recapture. Once he understands the dynamics are the real danger for his position, he will understand that h5 is a great move, really taking the steam out of my attack, and I cannot get my queen into the game anytime soon. So white should be fighting back way harder than in the game. So as I saw this, that he might close in my queen on h7, I decided to bring the queen now. King went to h1, of course, and now I decided to attack the bishop here, because it's not so easy to defend. White doesn't really want to simplify, because in this simplified position the king is even more open, and also the first pawns start to drop. So that's why in this position white played queen to d3. And that's another moment where I want to stop and talk about something which is called momentum in chess. So once we have this attack rolling, and the situation seems like it's very unstable how our opponent's forces are organized, that's really a moment where you should really spend time and try to focus and find very forcing options, and really try to finish the opponent off, and not give him a second chance. And that's such a situation. Let's see why. At this moment, I think the position of the white pieces is very, very unstable, and the reason for this is that this bishop really needs protection, and also this pawn really needs protection. And if I somehow could destabilize him even more, then his position would probably break, and it's winning immediately. So I should not give him time to, for example, close the center and rear out the bishop somehow, because then I'm kind of losing the momentum to exploit his weaknesses at a maximum, because it's getting stable and stable again. So I really need to use the moment of the least stability and try to focus there, and try to exploit the weaknesses when they are there. So that's why I took a lot of time in this position, and there are many options, but I tried to maximize my goals, maximize the forcingness of my play, and that's why I came up with the strongest move, which is b5. Maybe a bit surprising to include a queenside pawn here, but once we understand that we really need to destabilize either f3 or d4, because they are the weakest spots and they are merely defended enough times, then it's very understandable that this might break all the defenses. My alternatives were just trading on d4, but this is way simplifying too much. For example, rook d4, pawn d4. I have a better endgame. He cannot even take here, but even if he doesn't take, he might make it to an endgame, while I wanted to finish him off in the middle game. Indeed, white could fight back with some tactical ideas here, like e5, hitting the b7 pawn, and this would also discover an attack against my bishop. Still, this would be fine for black after queen e6, but it's not necessary to go for this, and b5 is stronger. So let's see the idea behind b5. The first point is the rook cannot stay on the 4th rank, because after rook b4 I would destabilize the rook again with c5, exploiting the pin against the queen, and after rook b5 I could take rook takes d4 anyway, getting in along the d file very forcingly. So that's why my opponent decided to take on c7 immediately, and I took on d4 with the rook. Now the queen is hit, needs to move away, and my opponent couldn't find the best way, played queen to e2, but now my pieces are still floating with, yeah, a lot of energy towards the king, again using the momentum. White is not yet stabilized, and so that's the moment where I might break his defenses. He played queen e2 to keep the bishop still defended, and now there are already some interesting ideas, like rook d2. White cannot take because checkmate in a few moves will follow. But still, after rook d2, I could not really see how I would finish him off. Of course, everything is winning, like taking some pawns here. White king is still in danger. It's completely winning, but I wanted to find something clearer. And as this is, again, a moment of momentum, in my opinion, because he's not stable, and I should use the chance now as it's there, as he's not stable yet. For example, he could stabilize further if he's given enough time, so I should act before he's given that time. I try to focus again and try to find some more forcing ways to break through, and once you look for it, you may find it. And there was a very nice finish with bishop to f1. Again, white cannot take the sacrifice because queen f3 will follow, and after each answer there will be rook d1, this time with checkmate, or the other way around with, yeah, winning the queen. So he couldn't go for this, but this bishop f1 is so forcing that there is no other great response. As queen e3 I also calculated, and there is rook d3, again forcing as long as he is not stable. And now I win a whole piece here on f3, and the counter checks are nothing. So black is completely winning here, and my opponent resigned. So that's it for this video. I hope I could give you some insights about dynamic play, what it is all about, and yeah, make you aware of playing dynamically in some situations where you cannot purely make progress by playing against static weaknesses on their own. So thanks for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. If you like my content, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate that, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.